When was the last time, as a construction business owner, you took 3 weeks off? Wouldn't that be beautiful to be able to do that? To be able to say, you work your butt off for like a week, getting everything all lined up, making sure everyone knows all these points, but they have the keys to make sure it happens. You go on vacation so you can rejuvenate and come back better than you were before you left. That's peace of mind.
Absolutely. And it's very possible. It is possible to do that, but it starts with being intentional and designing your business the way you want it to run. Hey, thanks for listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. My name is Todd Dawalt, the founder here at constructionleadingedge.com. We're all about helping construction business owners systematize their business so they can have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth. This is Business Continuity Month here at the Construction Leading Edge podcast, and today's episode is an interview with Jon Braddock, and we're going to be talking about estate planning, myths around estate planning, misconceptions, some of the biggest mistakes people make, especially business owners make. And we'll talk about some estate planning nightmares that you can avoid and how to do it by simply having the right information organized in the right way. We'll also be talking about the structure of your business, how the design and the structure of your business can ensure continuity of your business in the event you are incapacitated, there's an emergency, or worst case, you die. So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Jon Braddock. Enjoy. Jon, welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing terrific, Todd. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. So let's jump into it with this question. Why did you create a podcast called Estate Planning Nightmares? I think that's a good place to jump in here.
Great question.
Why did you do that?
Well, you know my backstory. We lost a family member and who was very close to us and lived up the street less than a quarter mile. And the process of trying to sort out their estate, it took us nearly a year. As I used to refer to it, it was a nightmare at the end. And I talked to an awful lot of people who said, oh my gosh, let me tell you about when my mom passed or brother died, right, unexpectedly. And, no one seems to understand this stuff. And when you look at the research, less than 50% of people in the country have a will or any kind of an estate plan, which is really funny because pretty much everyone who has a car has car insurance, right? But they may never get in a car accident. But only 50% have an estate plan, but there's 100% certainty that they are not going to, live forever. And what happens is on my podcast, I talk to estate planning attorneys and other professionals about stories because the reason is I want to educate the public. I want them to say, look, here are real stories, real people, real situations, what the impact was to family, what the cost was, in hopes not to scare them per se, but in hopes that they can kind of relate it and think about their own situation and maybe say, you know what, I should probably plan. Because when I die, I'm gone. But the choice is up to me, what I want the experience to be like for my family afterwards.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the things you went through when your family member passed away? Some of the things that surprised you?
Yeah, I think the first thing was just finding stuff, right? It's kind of like, the deceased want to be buried or cremated. Never talked about that, right? Have to try and make a plan. You try and make choices that you hope would have been pleasing. Would they have wanted a religious funeral or just a memorial service, right? And so the first couple of days, you have to go through all that kind of heavy lifting, not knowing, right? But easier if, someone had said, hey, when I die, do this, do this, do this, do this. But then the work starts afterwards. Is there a will? How do we find that? Where's all the bank accounts that are out there, and how do we access those? Did he have life insurance? And how do we find that? Did he have an attorney, an accountant? a CPA. And so you're all consumed with digging through boxes and files and trying to track things down. And at the end of the day, you find this stuff and you hope that you found everything. And probably the biggest challenge was digital identities, which is my largest pet peeve in the world, because the average email address is associated with 130 digital identities. And when you start to think about that, A to Z, Amazon to Zoom, Amazon Prime, Apple, iTunes, iCloud, Audible, Kindle, Nook, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Gmail, Google Drive, AOL, Venmo, Skype, Chewy.com, who's drop shipping dog food. And it goes on. And so many of those things are on auto pay and recurring pay. Trying to get access to those and turn them off is a nightmare. And sadly, I have no less than 5 friends on Facebook that still have active accounts, and they've been deceased for well over 3, 4, 5 years, some of them, and families still haven't taken down those accounts. How funny would you feel if, like, you posted on my Facebook thing, I'm dead, family didn't take it down, you post, hey, Jon, man, I haven't heard from you for a while. How the heck are you? I don't want to be that guy that posts that, right?
Happy birthday, Jon. 2 or 3 years in a row. And Jon's been dead for 3 years. Yeah, that would be tough. I'm curious. The name of your podcast is Estate Planning Nightmares. What are some of the biggest nightmare stories that you've heard from folks you've interviewed?
Well, there's a lot. And they all relate to, for the most part, people who have done some planning. They may have a will, or they may have had a trust done. So one of the interesting things is, sometimes people think, I don't want to contact an attorney. It's going to cost me too much money, and I know I can go online to, LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or somewhere, and I can create a will. It's not going to cost me much money. So I had an attorney on who talked about the fact that this person did their do-it-yourself planning, had everything put together, and after they died, the family member brought the documents to the attorney's office. They're all in Colorado. The do-it-yourself will was to be governed by the laws of the state of California. Which are a little different than in Colorado. And that process of unbundling all that and fixing it and getting it done, well over a year. And there were properties involved and those kind of things. Another one had to do with a family that had a trust. The gentleman had a trust. And he actually named co-executors on a trust. Now, for clarity, if people don't know, an executor is a trustee. That's when I die, who's first in line, in charge, who do I think is the most responsible, who can handle this thing, right? And then you list a secondary, right, in case one's unable to serve or they're deceased. Well, the deceased in this case liked both these two family members and just appointed them co-trustees. So they had to serve together. Thing is, they didn't like each other very much. In fact, turned out they hated one another. And the thing about family, as anyone knows, if you have kids, you can't agree on where to go to dinner, what movie to see, or anything else. When they become adults and there's money involved, they absolutely aren't going to agree. So it turned into 2 lawyers, one that she had to hire, one that he had to hire, double the expenses, and this thing drug out in probate for a year and a half or longer. It's just really interesting, and where the problem really is too, and the thing is to get people to understand. When you say to somebody, "Do you have an estate plan?" a lot of people might think, nah, you know what? That's for rich people, people that had a lot of, it's an estate, right? And my short answer to that is, look, estate is simply a fancy word for stuff. And we all have stuff, no matter how much it is, be it a bank account, a home, a car, life insurance. And these things need to go somewhere. And wouldn't it be nice if I had the ability to decide that, everything should be sold off and here's how I want it broken up, right? And so you try and get people to understand you do have stuff, your family's going to fight over it. Mom promised a china to both the girls. You think they're not going to fight over the china because of sentimental value? So I tell people you need to do some kind of planning. And when it comes to planning, if you die without any kind of planning, you actually have a plan. It's the state that you live in, and they refer to it as dying intestate, right? And I'm not an attorney, so if we have any attorneys listening, if I misspeak, my disclaimer is I'm not an attorney. This is what I know and understand. So dying intestate means that the courts have to get involved. You're going to need a lawyer. It's going to cost money. You're going to go to court. It's going to be what they call in probate, where the state has to look at all the assets, try and find any debtors, obligations that you have. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, the court will decide how it will be distributed amongst any remaining heirs. Depending on the state you're in, that can take up to 2 years. Not fun. Something that some direction would help with, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the ripple effects of not having a plan. So one of those ripple effects is your estate, your stuff will potentially go, it'll take a year to 2 years, a lengthy amount of time before it goes to your heirs. What are some of the other ripple effects of poor or non-existent estate planning?
Well, here's kind of a nightmare that leads into it. So there was this younger couple. They had 2 small children. I think one was about 2 years old, one was about 4 years old. They had, mom and dad had gotten into a car accident, and it was fatal. Didn't make it. This family didn't have a plan. They were young, right? And immortal. And so here's the problem. His mom and dad, her mom and dad, who all live in the same town, they're trying to decide who's going to raise these children, right? And, there's going to be some fighting going on with that. What happens temporarily? In the meantime, you don't want these kids to, be sent to any kind of foster care situation while the grandparents try to fight this thing out, which is a lengthy process. And then the court has to be involved in trying to determine ultimately who's going to be the right guardian. So they appoint an attorney that they call a guardian ad litem to do all the back work and interviews and everything else. And again, it's a long, long process to go through that. So one of the biggest mistakes, I think, in planning is anyone that has children, period, needs to have at minimum a will which directs who in your family or friend or whomever you would want to be rearing your children in the event of the unthinkable.
So we're going to get into the estate, the stuff specifically for business owners, because there's a whole other level of complexity of estate planning for business owners that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But let's talk about some misconceptions. You mentioned that some people think, well, I don't need an estate plan because that's only for wealthy people who have like an estate, like they have this manor or this home in the British countryside or something like that. What are some other common misconceptions that people have about estate planning?
Well, number one is they think, they don't have stuff. The other misconception is they think it's going to be expensive. and it doesn't have to be expensive. A good estate planning attorney could put together, a simple will if you don't have a lot of stuff, but appointing guardians and stuff for your children, probably well under $1,000. Or if they did, a full trust, it might cost $3,000 to $5,000. But here's the thing: without that, it's going to cost the family. If it's a trust situation that they could have had that maybe would have cost $3,500, but they didn't do it and plan, it's going to cost the family probably a year to 2 years and probably $35,000 to go through the whole process of probate and everything else. Mm-hmm. So thinking they don't have stuff is a huge misconception. Thinking it's expensive, well, depending on your budget, it may seem expensive, but it ain't anywhere close to how expensive it's going to be for family afterwards. So again, what do you want the experience to be like? And the funniest one, Todd, that I heard, and I hear this frequently, it's bad luck to talk about death and plan. Therefore, I'm just not going to do it. Bad luck. And, what I tell people is, look, talking about it is not going to make it happen. I mean, it's going to happen someday, but talking about it is not going to make it happen. We all talk about sex, right? But talking about sex doesn't make us pregnant. So talking about death isn't going to make us dead, right? So I think those are the three biggest misconceptions. I don't have stuff. You do. It's going to be super expensive. It's not. And it's certainly not bad luck. And the one common theme with all the estate planning attorneys that I interview and talk to on my podcast is that when people have come in and they've gotten their plan all laid out, once they ultimately sign their documents, there's such a sense of relief. And the value of an estate planning attorney is, I can go online and I can try and do this myself, but they've got the experience. It's like, well, what if this? Well, what if this? How do you want this? Do you want all that money to land in their lap day one when they're 19 years old and they'll be penniless when they're 20? Or do you want to have, so they help you think through the whole process of planning.
Yeah. They ask the questions. There are things you don't know, but then there are the things you don't know. What should I be asking? Mm-hmm. What are the scenarios? And the only way to get those answers is from somebody who's been through a few cycles and been through a few iterations. Yeah. So it's what I tell people, look, if you want to make a change, whether it's whatever it is, change your business, improve your relationships, lose 50 pounds, you really have three options. You can do nothing and just wait until you die, in this case. You can DIY it, do it yourself, hope for the best. And let's be honest, you're going to be dead, so it's not really going to affect you, but your family members and your survivors will care. So you can do nothing, you can DIY it, or you can find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Those are really the three options. And I think the smart option here is, what I'm hearing you say is, smart option is find a proven system. Find somebody to do this for you. And so you mentioned people have this sense of relief. I think a lot of people might be thinking, oh, shit, this just seems like a morbid subject. It seems like a lot of work. I don't want to talk about it. Procrastination is going to flare up. And they're wondering, what's in it for me to do this? Why would I go through, maybe the expense isn't an issue, but just like the emotional pain of thinking about this and the time it's going to take. So everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? So what's in it for the person listening to go through this effort to create a solid estate plan? What would you tell them, Jon?
Well, I think I'm going to put them in three categories of people. You can have the category of people who, yes, I know I need to do that, and it's going to be hard work, but I'm going to do it. Then you have the category of people who are like, yes, I know I need to do that, but oh man, it's going to be time consuming and overwhelming and that kind of stuff. I get it. And then you have people who don't care. I mean, they are out there. I talk to an awful lot of people, and there are people who are just like, I'm dead, you know? And, my response is selfish much. But because you got to start with the question, what do I want the experience to be like for my family? And if you truly care, you'll do it. Now, those who fall in that first camp of, yes, I know I need to do it. It's going to be time consuming, but I'm going to get it done because I love my family and I don't want to create more heartache after I'm gone. Love those people. The ones over here on the other side, number 3, I don't care, I'm dead. Let them figure it out. Fine. Enjoy the rest of your life. The ones in the middle, yes, I get it. You got a lot of stuff. You got to figure it out. You got to lay things out. You got to get a plan put together. You got to make sure people know how to find your retirement assets and take down your digital identities and cancel things on auto pay. And it's going to take time. But as you mentioned a couple minutes ago, Todd, it's kind of like, if you want to, lose weight, right? You can take action, do it yourself, not take action, etc. Here's what I tell people. Look at getting your planning done like a weight loss program. So if you need to lose 20 pounds, you can't go to the gym this afternoon and wake up 20 pounds lighter tomorrow. You just can't do it. But if you go to the gym today and tomorrow and next week and you eat a little bit better and you do a little bit more week over week over week, in a month or 2 or 3, you're going to wake up 20 pounds lighter. So look at your planning and getting things organized like a weight loss program. You can't do it all today, so don't get overwhelmed. Do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, talk to the attorney, start getting the planning done. And before you know it, it'll all be done. And then keeping it updated and maintained over time is simple. Your attorney will reach out every year or 2, ask you what's changed. If you've acquired new assets, let's get them into your legal documents and those things. And it certainly makes life a lot easier. It's a nightmare if you don't have the will. If you do have a will, it's a lot better because family, at least things are going to end up going where they go. But here's the thing about a will. A will still has to be probated. A lot of people think, I've got a will, so family will get my assets right away. Not the case. It still has to go through probate, get approved, depending on what's there. It could be fairly quick, 6 months, something like that. But it could take, up to a couple of years. So if you think I have a will and it's great because if I die, I want my kids to get these assets right away, they're not going to get them right away. It'll take time. And a will is also a public document. And there are nasty people out there because I heard from this woman in Dallas a while back, and her husband had died. And he was a Vietnam veteran, military guy. And she's been getting all kinds of requests via Facebook to friend this person, and they're running these scams because people can find out who died. Simple searches will find them on Facebook and those things. And a lot of people don't have their Facebook accounts privatized, in which case they can see who the friends are, they can identify who the wife is, and they can target them to try and go after assets and money. So, a will is public. A trust is not public. And there's no public record of any of the assets and things that were there. And a trust does not have to go through probate, which means it's a much faster process. Family will get their assets much quicker. And if it's done right and maintained so that all your assets, like your home, your cars, anything else you have are titled in the name of the trust, it's like the Holy Grail.
Hey, it's Todd here. And quick question I want you to think about. If something happened to you, would your family have access to all the information they need, like your trust, life insurance, and bank accounts? If you own a business, would someone have access to the information needed to run your business? Could they run payroll? Could they access bank accounts? Who would talk to customers? Would your business even survive if something happened to you? Having the right legal documents and having them where your family can find them is critical in the event of an accident, an emergency, or death. Having immediate access to the information and documents is crucial for your family members to enable them to make the decisions and ensure that they have access to the financial resources you've worked so hard for. Without the right documents in place and without them being in the right structure, your family could face unnecessary stress and financial challenges during what's already a difficult time. There are 42 documents and pieces of information your family will need if something happens to you. We've done the research here and we've talked to the experts, and we've put together a legacy planning checklist for you. You can download the legacy planning checklist for free at constructionleadingedge.com/legacy. That's constructionleadingedge.com/LEGACY. We'll also be rolling out a digital legacy vault program soon, so you can have all of this critical information in a secure digital location. So to get your legacy planning checklist and to be notified when we roll out the digital legacy vault, head on over to constructionleadingedge.com/legacy. Let's talk about business continuity for a little bit. We've established that everybody has stuff. They have an estate. Especially if you have children, you need to have a plan for that. For business owners, it's a whole other level of complexity, multiple levels of complexity. Mm-hmm. And I'm reminded of a conversation that we had at dinner with some of our clients, and one of our clients' wives shared a story of her father who had a heart attack and wasn't sure he was going to make it. And she shared this story of, I remember being in the hospital room, dad's in the hospital bed, he just had a heart attack, and mom is there with a notepad, and he's just telling her everything he can about what to do about this, who to call in case he doesn't make it, because there was no plan. Fortunately, he survived and is still in good health today, but that his business would have collapsed without him. And I spoke with someone a few months ago who was a little rattled because just the day before, a friend of his who was a construction business owner was in a car wreck and passed away. And his exact words were, his business is dead now. The business ran through him, everything was in his head, and that it was like, well, what's going to happen to his projects? How will his employees get paid? What will happen with his kids? How it was just this nightmare situation that he'd never really thought about. So let's talk about this. What happens when a business owner passes away, the owner of a small business? What are some things that people who are small business owners need to realize is going to happen when they pass away?
That's a great question, and yeah, it's critically important on the personal side to ease family. On the business side, it's equally, if not more important, from the standpoint of there are people who are depending on me to be here tomorrow. Their clients, obligations that I have, they have to be fulfilled. There are employees, whether it be one or two or whether it be 50, who need to be paid. So I always start with this to the business owner. What do you know that no one else knows that at some point they're going to have to know? That could be, how do I access the QuickBooks system to help pay employees? I know a lot of small businesses, there may be two partners, and that's it, and they've got employees. And I have my responsibilities, Todd, and you have yours, and we both stay in our own lane. But if something happened to you and you handle the payroll and do everything through QuickBooks, and I don't even know how to log into it, man, we get some employees who want to get paid, right? And if I died and I was in charge of all the projects, and I kept most of it up here or in my laptop and notes and those kind of things. Now you're left struggling. It's like, all right, what are the active projects we have going on? You're talking to some of the other people. Who's the key contact that Jon was working with? Well, I don't know. He kept everything on that damn laptop he carried with him in his backpack all the time, right? Does anyone know how to get into his laptop? At least unlock that thing, right? Some secrets shouldn't be taken, to the grave. So, much like personal planning, I was Todd and I. We were talking earlier, and so back with a former company I had, we had a pretty good sized team, and I had a real critical key team member. Her name's Jenny, and the greatest marketing person ever. But she handled everything, all the communication, ran our CRM, put out all the newsletters and the email lists, and just everything. Did the marketing, the design, the colors, things we did for clients. And she did it all. It was all in her brain. It was all on her computer. If something had happened to her, we had no idea even how to get into the computer. But even if we did get into that computer, none of us knew how to run those programs and queue things up or do the design work in Canva and all the PicMonkey and all the creative things that she used. So yeah, so at that point it was like we need to have a succession plan, obviously, because if you and I own a business together and one of us dies, you don't want my wife to be your business partner, and I probably don't want your wife to be my business partner. So we need a plan for that. But the business still has to run without missing a heartbeat. If any key owner doesn't wake up tomorrow morning, and someone needs to be able to access that information, such as how do we get into the computer? How do we get into the QuickBooks? Who should we contact? Because I don't understand the accounting side. Who's our accountant that I can contact and bring them in? But then also, step 2, beyond what is it that no one else knows. Think about your employees that work for you. And what is it that they know that you don't know that you might need to know? Such as my Jenny, if something had happened to her during that time, it would have really hampered our productivity probably for at least a month, maybe 2. Been lost business and those kind of things. So make sure someone has, all the keys that they're going to need, kind of like standard operating procedure, operations manuals, those kind of things, so that someone can step in and pick up, without it really being a huge burden or expense to the company.
Yeah. What I've seen with a lot of small construction businesses, especially, is they are unintentionally designed to fail. Because if something happens to the owner, the business fails, period. Because so much of it may not be everything goes through the owner, but one critical part of the business is 100% dependent on the owner. Operations, maybe sales, design, the finance side. And these businesses are unintentionally designed to fail because everything is in that person's head, and they never really thought, what would happen if I were, maybe they don't have to die, but in some cases, if somebody is incapacitated for 2 weeks, the business would fail. So a good question to ask would be, what parts of my business would fail if I disappeared for 2 weeks? What is unintentionally designed to fail? And what are the single points of failure in the business? So what I'm hearing you say is you're talking about this. Some of the keys would be, you need to design your business intentionally to run without you. And you need to design your business. Maybe the right term is you need to be intentional about how you design your business to run. We don't want to have single points of failure. If something happens to Jenny, we need to be able to, the business needs to be able to continue. The business needs to be built around processes and systems, not built around people. And I think the keys to that would be, as part of that plan, number one, make sure people can access, people have the access that they need. Like, can people get into your office if you're gone? Might be a good question. Can they get into your shop? Can they access credit cards? Can somebody run payroll? Make sure people have access to the information that they need to run the business. Step one. Maybe step one is have clearly defined roles and responsibilities so that if something happens to Jenny or Carrie, for example, let's say Carrie is an office manager or Steve is a project manager. Let's have clearly defined roles and responsibilities so we know exactly what Steve's doing and what Carrie is doing. So if something happens, it's clearly defined. Then we have documented processes that Steve is following and that Carrie is following. And then let's make sure we have access to their systems in case something happens to them. And then vice versa. If something happens to me, let's make sure the people on my team know what I'm doing. It's documented. They know how to do it. They have access to the information that they need and the systems they need to be able to use. I think those seem like good starting points. Let's talk about.
Think of this peace of mind. So, and everything you're saying is like so spot on for running a business, so critical, and most don't do it, right? But think about this peace of mind to know that you have a self-managing company, okay, that is not dependent on me having to be there. 3 reasons. 1, if I die, it doesn't miss a heartbeat. It can move forward. And if there's some kind of plan in place, at least I know that it's going to get sold, bought out, and my wife's going to benefit from that. It doesn't die. 2, if I'm incapacitated, and I can't work for 2 or 3 weeks, someone else can take on those responsibilities. There's a roadmap, shows them exactly what to do. Company survives. Or 3, much more pleasant scenario. When was the last time, as a construction business owner, you took 3 weeks off? Wouldn't that be beautiful to be able to do that? To be able to say, you work your butt off for like a week, getting everything all lined up, making sure everyone knows all these points, but they have the keys. They can make sure it happens. And go on vacation so you can rejuvenate and come back better than you were before you left. That's peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very possible. It is possible to do that, but it starts with being intentional and designing your business the way you want it to run. And so many construction business owners just jump in and I have this book on my bookshelf, the E-Myth Revisited. They are technicians and they really own a job. If you really looked at it from the outside, like, you don't really own a business, you own a job. And that you stop generating revenue when you go away. And owning a business is very different from that. Yeah. Let's talk about this for a few minutes. How important are having documented processes and systems to business continuity? Let's say a key staff member is incapacitated or they leave, right? This is not only a death scenario. People quit jobs, they move, they go on maternity leaves, they take long trips. How important is having documented systems and processes to business continuity? What do you think?
I think it's absolutely critical. From whatever the situation is, if you have documented processes, or I always refer to them as roadmaps, right? Some of our younger people don't know what a roadmap is because we have Siri who gets us wherever we want to go. But having that roadmap just makes sure everything moves forward. Without that, people are totally lost. And if they're lost and they're trying to figure out what needs to be done because Jon's not here, their work's not getting done. And so it's almost the domino effect, right? If one component breaks down, it's going to impact the entire infrastructure of the company. And I don't think I don't run a construction company, but I don't think laying out what each person does and having that done on a daily basis. What do you do? What are your steps? What do you do Monday? What do you do Tuesday? Especially for the internal people, and laying that out, making it a responsibility of them. You need to get this done for me because we have to ensure that this business runs. Then it can be refined, but I don't think it's that huge of a task.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. A lot of small business owners have this, when they think about documenting processes, they think, oh, well, I have to do this. And I hate doing that. So I'm probably not going to do it. And you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't be documenting other team members' processes. Have them do it. Have them document what they're doing. What is their roadmap? Step by step. How do they do their jobs?
You know what's interesting about that is, I don't know about you, I have, but I've got a lot more years than you do on this planet. But have you ever had an employee that you've thought, what the heck are they doing all day? I've had some of those. I mean, I know what their job is and they're doing it, but it's like, what are they doing? Right? This is a great way to find out. Everyone in the organization, we need to see, what do you do? How do you do it? How do you get it done? What are the technological components of it? What's the technology? How do we access it? And those kind of things. And any employee who's not willing to tell you, well, this is the password into the Canva account or something we do. It's like, man, you're not a team player.
Yeah. And I think I would imagine if people asked, hey, what are you doing? And then I think people would answer that pretty well. But I think a lot of business owners might be surprised by the answers to how are you doing it? Because the answers might be, well, I kind of do it differently every time. And if you ask 3 project managers how they're doing it, they're probably all doing it differently, which could answer why some are getting different results and your projects are ending up differently. So there's a lot of benefits to documenting those processes and systems. And then, I really like that idea. Hey, what are you doing and how are you doing it? Chances are you'll be surprised to find out, oh, they're doing, you may find out a few things. Wow, they're doing a lot. 2, they're doing it really inefficiently. There has to be a better way. Or 3, they're really not doing much at all. And maybe we need to throw some other things on their plate potentially. Yeah, but that's a good exercise. And there's another tip I heard from one of our clients. They require all of their employees to take at least 1 week of continuous vacation a year for multiple reasons. One, so they get away from the business and they can rejuvenate. But number 2, it forces them to document their process so that somebody else can fill in for them while they're gone, which I thought was a pretty smart move.
I don't want to have to call you, Todd, while you're on vacation in Hawaii with the family to ask you something that just came up. You need to be disconnected. I think it's an amazing exercise that they should do. I'll state the obvious. I don't think the best approach is good. Employees say, what is it you do every day? That's probably going to get a little feedback. But if we explain that we're all doing this for the reason that if Tom is not here for a couple of weeks, that his things get done and we all still get paid. We're trying to make sure that we all get paid and benefit long term. And the only way to do that in this type of business is to make sure that, we have someone that we can tap out, right? And someone steps into the ring for us when we're not there.
Yeah. Because in a small business, you are all in it together. If sales stop, then eventually operations will stop and finance will stop. If finance stops making payroll or collecting invoices or handling accounts payable, everything's going to stop. So everybody's in it together in a small business. Unlike I worked inside of Procter & Gamble for a few years. And if somebody went away in an organization of that size, you don't really feel it. But you do feel it in a small business. So let's talk about this. What are some? I think we've highlighted some areas, given some people food for thought here, and they're wondering, all right, what do I do now? This seems like an overwhelming task. What would you say are the first few steps to getting started with this? And then, if you're wondering, if you're listening and wondering, if you're looking for some help with this, I'll talk some more after this. After Jon and I are finished talking, listen to the end of the episode. We'll talk about a program that we're going to be rolling out in the next few months to help you with this. But Jon, what are the first few steps for people who want to get started mitigating some of these risks that we've talked about?
Well, on a personal side, individual side, family side, I would say the first thing is if you don't have any kind of a will or trust, any kind of estate plan at all, you really need to think about that. And try and find a good estate planning attorney. They're not that hard to find. Most estate planning attorneys don't bill by the hour. They have a flat rate for the things that they do. Look for Google reviews. Look for testimonials that they may have on their website, and many of them offer free 30-minute consultation. Those kind of things. So you can have a conversation, if you feel comfortable with them. That would be the first step, because that's going to be critical for family. Number two is just start making a list. I mean, you're sitting watching a ball game on Sunday, right? Just take a legal pad out, for crying out loud, and start making a list of all the things that you know or have that maybe others don't. Start with, do you have a will? Where is it? Just, I have a will. It's located here. Where do you bank? I bank at this bank. I have a checking savings, and I bank at this bank. I have a safe deposit box in the money market. Do you have life insurance? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got a life insurance policy with Prudential, and the agent's Tom Smith, and my attorney is, Susan, Robinson. What do you have that's on auto pay? Oh, man, I read the Wall Street Journal on my iPad every day. I got that. I got Chewy.com, drop shipping food, Amazon Prime, of course, because who doesn't have that? Sirius XM radio. And start thinking through those things. And just start making a list, a brain dump, if you will, to have those things together. Because if you get that list put together and it's laying there, and God forbid you don't wake up tomorrow morning, at least you have a beginning of a roadmap that your significant other, your spouse, is going to see and say, oh my God, you started to put some stuff down. Very thoughtful. From the business standpoint, very much the same. I would start by thinking of, if I died, what happens to the business? Where does it go? Do I have a partner? Do we have a buy-sell agreement in place? If I don't have a partner and it's just me, but I've got people that do stuff, if I died, can this business be sold? Is there goodwill and those kind of things, and think through those processes and really what you want to happen with the business, right? And in step two, much like the brain dump you just did personally, start doing that for the business. What would someone need to know if I didn't make it in here to keep this business, assuming you want the business to keep running? What are they going to need to know? What are my processes and steps? And then shift that to, as we just finished talking about, each of your team. What do they do? What do they know that no one else knows that we should know? And start building it out. And at least it's the first steps in a process. And it may prove helpful to somebody before they get fully organized, because you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is a somber, morbid topic that it's pretty easy to procrastinate, pretty easy to avoid. But as I heard one of our clients say when we were talking about this, he said, as a business owner, you have a moral and ethical obligation to do this for your family, for your employees, for your trade partners, for your customers, to be truly a CEO of a business. This is part of it. It's succession planning. It's business continuity. That's what big boys and big girls do as CEOs. And it's part of being a CEO. And I think what people will find as they go through this is it's not as overwhelming as you think. And there are lots of good insights that will come from it when you start thinking about it as, okay, these are opportunities for improvement. This is how we can make our business more resilient. They're not bugs in the system. They're not mistakes. They're not failures. You're just looking at it differently, and you're finding ways to upgrade your business, finding ways to make it more resilient, and ultimately think about what's it going to be like when I have all of this in place? How much peace of mind will I have? How much peace of mind will my spouse have? How much peace of mind will my employees have? Because you may not be thinking about what happens if you die, but I'll bet one of your employees has. They're wondering, what's going to happen if this guy kicks the bucket? And maybe they're already making plans. So having this in place gives everybody peace of mind. Yeah. So, Jon, great stuff. We're going to be talking more about this. So, folks, if you're looking for solutions, if you're thinking, how do we do this? We're going to be rolling out a program to help solve this for you in the next couple of months. And Jon's going to be a big part of that. So, Jon, thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for taking the time to be on here. So be sure to check out the estate planning nightmares. If you're into that if you want to listen about estate planning nightmares, go check out the estate planning nightmares. And Jon, you also have a book out there as well. What's the name of your book, and where can people find it?
I do. The book is called Click Here When I Die, Making Things Easier for Those You Love. For those watching, this is what it looks like. It's available on Amazon in book form and in Kindle. A lot of people say, sounds like a Debbie Downer. Well, no, as Todd knows, I have a fairly irreverent sense of humor. And so that's what it's about. But it's our story, other people's stories, and really addresses all the things a lot of things we've talked about today and that we should be thinking about getting done. So appreciate you mentioning that.
Good stuff. You bet. Yeah. Jon, thanks for taking the time to be on here. This was very enlightening and very helpful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's Todd here. And one more thing before you go. Look, if you own a construction business and you want to put the right systems in place so you can either scale it up, maybe you want to step away from it, be able to take a proper vacation, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you just want to have more freedom, or maybe make it more profitable, or maybe you just want to get out of constant firefighting mode and make your phone stop ringing all the time. You really have three options if you want to make a meaningful change in your business. Option one is do nothing. Status quo, keep doing the same things, getting the same results. Option two, you can DIY it. You can do it yourself. You can reinvent the wheel. You can read books, listen to podcasts, try to piece together a solution, use trial and error. Or option number 3, if you want meaningful change, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Sort of like if you use software for project management or for your bookkeeping, I assume you probably didn't try to code your own software. You found a proven system that delivered the results you're looking for, right? Well, if you're looking for a proven system to systematize your business, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners implement our systems in their business, specifically our nail the handoff pre-construction process in their business. It works for home builders, remodelers, commercial general contractors. It also works really well for trade contractors like electricians, concrete contractors, site, utility, plumbing. And it's part of our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So if you want to see what systematizing your business looks like, what nailing the handoff looks like, and the positive side effects that come with that, then the next step would be to schedule a free business evaluation call with my team. And you can do that by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or just go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. You'll learn about the 5-step process we've helped hundreds of people implement to systematize their construction business. Most importantly, you'll get an objective third-party evaluation of your business to answer one really big question. Is your business designed to fail, or is it designed to succeed? So let me ask you this. If your business was unintentionally designed to fail, when would you rather find out? Now, while there's time to do something about it, or later on when it's maybe too late? This business evaluation call is totally free. There are no strings attached, no pressure. And it could be the best hour you've spent working on your business in a long time. So our schedule fills up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, go over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or go to constructionleadingedge.com and tap the Apply Now button to book your business evaluation call. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast. If you could take a moment, if you did, and leave a rating or a review or share this with somebody who needs to hear it, I would appreciate it. Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.